lives. So ladies and gentlemen, that is what he said in summary, but we'll be giving you more details within the bulletin about what he said. Now, to move on with today's bulletin, members of parliament say that inadequate oxygen in hospitals for COVID patients, high costs of treatment and high costs of testing the disease may escalate the COVID-19 crisis. The MPs now urge government to intervene and regulate the COVID-19 treatment charges across all hospitals. According to legislators, this can be done by government offering incentives or tax waivers to private hospitals. Let's take a look.
The increasing costs of COVID-19 treatment by hospitals across the country is worrying the MPs, saying the poor may be at disadvantage since they cannot afford such costs. According to media reports, treatment of COVID-19 in private hospitals costs between 3 to 5 million shillings a day, costs an ordinary Ugandan cannot afford. This is the reason why the MPs want government to intervene and regulate the costs.
Without any policy, it is the role of government to protect people and property. And therefore, hospitals cannot continue exploiting Ugandans who are sick, and then we keep quiet as government. Just the other day, we saw Nakarima swing into action, move around parks, arresting bus owners and attendants. Why can't we see somebody moving to hospitals and ask why there is an increase of prices unnecessarily?
Someone is taking his own measures, the way we can milk from Ugandans. Every hospital is setting its own standard, but it's private. In Uganda, we had something called Kasao and Ingalonkaru. When you visit a medical facility, you have something, you'll be catered more. If you have no money, no one will care.
Some of the legislators have also expressed concerns over the high costs of testing for COVID-19.
Currently, we are spending 100,000. That is the cheapest fee one offers for testing COVID. That is still too high. It should come down to at least 30,000 because we are telling our populations to vaccinate after testing. But if the testing is expensive to that level and then the vaccination is for free, then it's as if you are refusing people to vaccinate. So it is better we make the testing cheap.
I'm also calling upon the owners of these private facilities to have the heart of this country. We should not use this opportunity to cheat our fellow Ugandans. We should not use this opportunity to actually, trouble our own people. The poor are now the most disadvantaged. We should take into consideration the lives of the vulnerable.
According to the MPs, inadequate oxygen in hospitals, high costs of treating COVID-19 and the high costs of testing the disease may escalate the crisis if something is not done by government.
I want to ask the Speaker at some stage that we need to come back as Parliament, see this as an emergency, and look for money to help Ugandans. Ugandans cannot die one after the other, and we are Parliament, and we are leaders, and we're just quiet about it. I think we need to come as Parliament, have a sitting specifically to discuss COVID, to discuss interventions by government, because Ugandans are dying.
We need an urgency meeting to talk about people being charged a lot of money.
Uganda has so far registered 68,779 COVID-19 cases, 584 deaths, with most of the cases registered in the second wave. UBC News at Parliament.
Furthermore, local leaders in slum areas of Kawempe Division in Kampala have asked government to include them in its programs aimed at protecting them against COVID-19. Village chairpersons say that they have already felt the impact of COVID-19 pandemic's second wave. Let's take a look.
Sabina, Mayinja and Good Hope Zone, with a population of 18,000 residents. Majority of the residents in these areas are engaged in casual labor like hawkering and vendoring, maize selling, among other jobs for a living. Local leaders claim that since the COVID-19 second wave. Slum areas are among the most affected, with at least every zone registering 2 to 3 deaths of COVID-19 every day.
Bantu bakyafayo kwambala mask bwakusanga bwati nagisaako oluddako agizza mu kalevu. Omuntu abeera ng'ali mu nnyumba erimu abantu 10 n'afuna ekirwadde omu, olowooza ekitundu ekyo kyonna kirina kuba ku mbeera ki?
Village chairpersons claim that despite observing measures and standard operating procedures set to curb the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, many of their residents earn low and cannot adhere to maintain the SOPs.
Abantu tuze baffe tebakyasobola kukola mu budde bwabwe. Boda zikwatibwa buli lunaku. Omuntu yenna aba afuba okulaba nti anoonyeza famire ye ekyokulya naye talina budde busobola kukola ki kunoonyeza muntu kyakulya.
Twetaaga abantu bano abasobola okujja wansi ne babudaabuda abantu baffe mu kaseera kano ke tulimu, katugeze ng'okusensitizinga. Sensitization zive waggulu, zive ku TV.
A representative of Good Hope Zone, Rose Nachigos, says the numbers of domestic violence cases are increasing in slum areas amidst COVID-19.
Mwami akubye omukyala kubanga talina omukyala asabye emmere. Omukyala alwanye ne bamulumye tamulekedde ssente za mmere. Musajja n'agamba nti nze nagenze kukuba ne staff nayo kyakulya. Ate omukyala ankuba annumye kati nkole ntya.
Residents decry the challenge of poverty that has led to increased defilement and rape, resulting into early pregnancies.
Wogenda mu butale abaana gye bali, wogenda mu bibanda bya firimu abaana basiiba eyo, wotambula osanga abaana bakola byogamba nti ebintu ebyabakola by'obuseegu.
Tusaba abakwatibwako ensonga y'eddembe ly'obuntu batunulire abaana bano abawala kubanga mu kaseera kano bali mu kusoomoozebwa.
Local council leaders want government to run to their rescue and include them in its program of fighting COVID-19, especially in slum areas.
Oba basobola batuwe ku mmere kati bino bye tutunda tebikyatambula. Batufunireyo ebizindaalo tubeere nga tugezaako okubeera nga tuyita mu batuuze baffe nga tukola alaati.
Tubabawo omukisa gw'okwongera okuddamu okugaba ku masiki, ddemu tufune omukisa ogwo masiki ezo ziddemu zigabweko.
In another development, members of Parliamentary from Botareja district have decried the scarcity of COVID-19 treatment equipments in the district's hospitals. They want government to provide hospitals with COVID-19 treatment equipments following increasing number of deaths and cases of COVID-19 in the district.
Ebikozesebwa testing kits, gloves, protective wear yatuweddeko.
A member of Parliament resident in the area, Motiwa Geoffrey Eric, cautioned residents against self-medication.
Personal responsibility. Omuntu asobola otegeera nti obulwadde oba obulira nti embeera gy'olimu si nnungi, olina okubeera nga ogenda mu ddwaliro osobola okeberewa, osobola okubeera nga ofuna treatment ekwatagana n'obulwadde buli kuluma.
They, however, pleaded to residents to continue observing the standard operating procedures against COVID-19 pandemic. Botareja district so far registered over 70 cases of COVID-19 since the outbreak. Deborah Namamonde, Ivan Juko, UBC News.
Now, a number of people believe in herbal therapy for treatment and immune boosting. Health experts have, however, advised that steaming and self-medication and also herbs may not necessarily be curative. Let's listen to what Amon Gabo has found out.
Lately, trends on social media show how many Ugandans are resorting to local herbs and medicines in both treatment and boosting of immunity against COVID-19. Local concoctions for drinking and steaming are all over the place, with a saying that many locals have become experts in herbal medicine. The other trend for most of the homes is self-steaming, some with water, others with local herbs, to clear the throat but also the entire body system. Steaming, though currently adopted by many, has always been around for quite some time. Many were using it for treating flu and nose congestion. Dr. Bruce Chilenga, the director, Lung Institute, is against self-steaming with herbs not fully regulated.
Steaming is actually a treatment modality which has been used for a very long time. And I'm sure when you are growing up, most people have been steamed once in a while. It has been used since the medieval times. When you look at the records, it is said to have arrived in Europe during the Victorian times. And that is the 1800s, long time ago. And all of us have been steamed once in a while. It is thought that it can treat common cold or flu. And there are three reasons which people use to advance steaming. The first one, people think heat can loosen the mucus in the airway and relieve you. People also think that heat can reduce inflammation. People also think that actually heat can kill the virus. So we can look at each of those things one in turns. COVID is not a flu as people think. It lies to us. It spends the shortest time in your nose. It knows where there is good business. It quickly translocates to your lungs, to your heart, to your brain. By the time people are seriously sick, the nose is okay. And you agree with me on this. The nose is okay. The thing has gone down. So now, even if you go to this upper airway and heat it and heat it and heat it, you are actually, the enemy has already what? The enemy has already left.
He says that steaming is not recommended as a treatment for COVID-19, though inhaling steam has been used as a home remedy for colds and upper respiratory tract infections.
When you steam the upper nose, you know steaming. I don't know whether you've ever seen it. It's actually a simple thing. Get a vessel which has hot water and cover. If the mucus is in the upper airway, you dissolve it, it comes out. You have to pull it out. I hope people can understand it. But if the mucus is deep down in the airways, you steam it, dissolve it, then it goes down.
The other aspect is self-medication, where many who catch a cold have resorted to prescribing drugs for themselves, a move medical experts refer to as suicidal.
Or if you are the one who is caring for this person and you see this person's mind is not so longer alert or is saying things which appear to be confused, things which are not coordinated, this person is developing severe COVID. This person must be in hospital. Or if this person is becoming very weak, has been walking around in his house managing, but now can hardly stand up, this person is developing severe COVID. The person needs to go to hospital immediately.
The UPDF Political Commissar Brigadier General Henry Matsko, on the other hand, recommended observance of SOPs set by the Ministry of Health as remedy to prevention of COVID-19.
Is really to study and go back to these standing operating procedures.
Health living through eating of fresh and unprocessed foods like fruits, vegetables and foods from animal sources are recommended by health experts.
Furthermore, the director of Uganda National Expanded Program on Immunization, Dr. Driwale Alfred, says that the AstraZeneca vaccine is effective against the new COVID-19 variants. He, however, says that they are not 100% due to the fact that it has been found to be resistant to the immune system of some people. These are the details.
There are a lot of misconceptions and myths, especially on social media platforms, about the efficacy of AstraZeneca vaccine against the new COVID-19 variants. A study conducted by Visa about the efficacy of AstraZeneca allays fears about the vaccine. According to the study, AstraZeneca is 60% effective against the Indian variant and 66% effective against the English variant. Both the two variants are among the many variants in Uganda.
And this kind of unresearched information which is being spewed to the community only helps to achieve confusion, and it only helps to accelerate spread of the disease because people become undecided.
In both cases, the effectiveness of AstraZeneca was measured 2 weeks after the second shot and against symptomatic disease. The dominant English Kent variant and the feared Indian strain, both in Uganda, have been outpaced with the completion of the 2 doses of AstraZeneca immunization test. Against this globally proven test of the vaccine, Dr. Driwale says AstraZeneca is effective against the COVID-19 variants.
Then it is going to train itself and practice fighting COVID on a vaccine, so that the chemicals will be produced, the cells which eat the virus will be produced, and the cells which will remember that I was once attacked will be produced. And after that, the body is ready. Should the COVID-19 virus enter your body, it will find the soldiers are ready, and it will fight the disease without giving it chance to multiply.
Despite of its efficacy against the new COVID-19 variants, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is based on the virus's genetic instructions for building the spike protection. According to Dr. Driwale, the vaccine prevents development of severe disease through controlling the virus from multiplying in the body.
So it prevents severe forms of disease which will require hospitalization, which will require intubation, and which will eventually progress maybe to death. There are people who still, in spite of their vaccination status, have been found positive. There are those who have developed severe forms of disease, and indeed there are those who have died.
In the past, fears had built up in a number of countries over the safety of AstraZeneca vaccine after several cases of blood clot or brain hemorrhages in people after receiving the vaccine, with a small number of deaths reported. Dr. Driwale treated these observations about the vaccine as isolated cases, but revealed that glitches were caused by the failure of the body to make good use of the vaccine.
You see, vaccination is the act of giving the vaccine. Getting immunized is your body reacting and building antibodies ready to defend. There are people, when they're vaccinated, their bodies will not make use of the vaccine. And when we say the efficacy is not 100%, it means when you vaccinate 100 people, out of the 100, you may get 10 people who will not make use of the vaccine.
However, Dr. Driwale says the vaccine becomes effective in one's body after 14 days of receiving the injection. So it cannot protect anyone who contacts COVID-19 before 2 weeks.
You get the vaccine today, the body will take 2 weeks to mobilize its immune system, the soldiers that fight disease in the body. It will take about 2 weeks to mobilize. Within that period, although you are vaccinated, you are unprotected. So, if you are infected within that period, the disease will move, and it is your natural body which will be fighting.
At the moment, the first dose only gives 60% protection from the disease, and one requires to get 2 doses to be fully protected. He says it is not a precondition to test before vaccination because it does not make public health sense.
What we know is 1 dose will give you immune response between 50 and 60, 1 dose. So if the level of protection is 60, then the 40% you are vulnerable. So 1 dose is protection. You are better than someone who is not being vaccinated at all. Yes, but you are not fully protected.
According to him, many people who have been vaccinated and contracted COVID-19 got mild symptoms, and some who were fully vaccinated succumbed. He explains that AstraZeneca is a non-replicant vaccine that does not cause infection.
Many of the people who have been vaccinated, they are found positive with the COVID, and they have no symptoms. or they have mild symptoms and they are resting at home and they are doing well.
Uganda has vaccinated close to 1 million people, with only 60,000 receiving 2 doses. However, these numbers are very small compared to global statistics. I'm Nafka Farida in Kampala.
Definitely go get yourself a job if you really have the capacity to actually reach those places now that the lockdown is on us. Now, anyways, the Ministry of Health has received oxygen concentrators to support Uganda's health system attend to the increasing COVID-19 patients in need of oxygen. An oxygen concentrator is a device that concentrates from a gas supply by selectively removing nitrogen to supply an oxygen-enriched product gas stream. Now, 2 methods in common use are the pressure swing and absorption and membrane gas separation. Ivan Kawa has more details on this report.
The Director Clinical Services at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Charles Olaro, has received 25 oxygen concentrators from Bismart Technologies Limited at the Ministry of Health Headquarters, Kampala.
This is part of 65 oxygen concentrators which have been donated to the Ministry of Health.
The German-made 5-liter oxygen concentrator is designed to accommodate a single patient at a time and can generate oxygen consistently.
Non-stop 24 hours. Okay, so you just need to add the water and power up, and he will continue to generate the oxygen. Okay, so you don't have to replace or refill. It will continue working.
These are meant for patients who need less than 5 liters of oxygen per minute.
Not only for COVID cases, but also for other cases for continuity of essential services. For children who are just born with birth asphyxia who need oxygen, this also can be able to do. For people with the cardiac failure and pneumonia, they can also be able to do it. So we'll be able to use it even after COVID, they can be able to use. So
Bismart Technologies Limited intends to support the ministry with other 10-liter oxygen concentrator consignments. Ivan Kahwa, UBC News.
Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni announced stringent measures to curb the coronavirus in a televised interview. Mr. Museveni said that the pandemic curve is now on a steep rise with increased reports of deaths nationwide. He said that the proportion of the people testing positive from the tested results has remained as high as 17%, and yet the country needs to be as low as 5% to be able to effectively manage this disease. Now let's take a look at what he said, a recap, and perhaps pick a thing or two.
Barriers. Whereas the compliance on this has been low, the high risk factor assessed is the pressure of people seeking permission to go and attend barriers from place to place. This poses the highest danger of spreading the virus and breaches of the strategy. Therefore, barriers to be restricted to the core family as applied in the military. One of our people, first of all, my uncle died during this corona. I never went to bury him. He was buried at Raiktura, next to my father and mother, but I never went to bury him. Because I was adding nothing. I was not going to resurrect him. But I would bring a crowd. So my uncle died, buried at Raiktura in our burial place. I sent my young brother Nzeire with a few people, you go and bury. What difference does it make? Just gathering. When there is so much danger. My cousin died during this. I sent a few people, you go and bury. Now the other day, one of our people, Pius Mujuzi, former member of parliament, died. He was an army officer. Then I got people, send a representative. I said, no, I'm not going to send a representative. I will send support, but not a representative to make it. This is not a normal time to go and make speeches and what. And he died from corona. So I'm not going to send a representative because this is not normal time of sending representatives. No. Kajago Karasoke died. I sent support to the children. I didn't send a representative. Because people behave as if this is a normal thing. Those things happen, those cultural, social, happen because when things are normal. But when things are not normal, and you are told that, today I was speaking with the Omudinja of Bundubujo, our soldier, Lieutenant Colonel Kamia, who is the king of Bundubujo. His mother died, one of our people. Somebody was saying, you send somebody. I said, no, I'm not going to send anybody. I will send support. What is needed is support, which can be sent virtually, but no representative or president to make speech as if we are in normal way. So these barriers are being mishandled. Let only the core people of the family be there. Like I handled my uncle. I told one of my young brothers, and said, you go with a few people, 10 people. That's enough. When the crisis is over, we can have an occasion and we'll remember him. The committee I put in place during my last address, led by Major General Soke and Dr. Musenero, should ensure the institution of a well-coordinated mechanism which enables a few family members to transport the dead body for burial. RDC and DPC should ensure that all SOPs are observed and not more than 20 people attend the burial. And avoid gatherings and visits to the deceased family after burials, which will promote spread of the virus. Bars, discos, sports betting, and cinema halls, despite all the directives, the bar owners and clients have not fully adhered. I now direct KCCA, URA, and local government authorities to close and seal off all the bars that breach this, and also cancel their licenses forever. Cancel their licenses. You violate, you will never open again in Uganda unless you go to Kenya or South Sudan. Police should accordingly arrest and charge you with hefty fines. We are not going to arrest you and put you in jail to eat our free food. No, you will be the one to pay. We can raise money from you instead of us feeding you. It serves no purpose arresting the revelers while allowing the owners to reopen the following morning. All other sectors which are not specifically mentioned should consider themselves closed for the next 42 days. Institutions and organizations, although most offices have complied with the 30% physical presence at the workplace, the directive ought to be reviewed. Current information so far obtained indicates that despite this scale down, infection rates in this area are very high. I have therefore decided that we reduce further to 10% of staff in non-core ministries, departments and agencies. The Right Honourable Prime Minister, working with the Minister of Public Service and the Minister of Health, will redefine the non-core MDAs.
Well said. Those are the words of our President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. In other news, Gulu Archbishop John Baptist Odama wants all Ugandans to have faith in God as a vital weapon against COVID-19. He also is preaching the need to observe standard operating procedures, mainly wearing of face masks, washing hands and social distancing. This is contained in his comforting message to all Ugandans as the COVID-19 pandemic strikes and reaches threatening levels.
First, we turn to God. Two, we follow the directives which are given by the Ministry of Health and also by our head of state, who is actually guiding us as the government we are in. And when Dr. Mateo Luquia was dying, he was praying to God. He said, God, have mercy on us. Let me be the last to die. Let there be no other person to die. And God was so attentive. He listened to him. And truly, the Ebola stopped. So both prayer and the following of the instructions helped save us from this unfortunate Ebola attack. The same should be with the COVID-19 pandemic. So let me take the first chance to convey my sincere condolences to all of you who have had their dear ones claimed by COVID-19 virus. Condolences, accept my prayers for you. May God, who has never abandoned us, share his presence with us so that we don't give up. We always keep his presence as a sign of his love and protection to us. God.
Amen. Kasese District COVID-19 Task Force has warned residents against disrupting government programs intended to combat the spread of COVID-19. Now, this warning follows an attack on the government medical funeral service team attached to Bwera General Hospital, who had gone to bury a COVID-19 victim.
Last week, a team of health workers attached to Bwera Hospital was attacked by residents who alleged that they were burying an empty casket. The Bunyiswa village in Wera sub-county's incident compelled the burial team to open the casket of the remains of the COVID-19 victim. It's on this note that the head of Kasese District COVID-19 Task Force, Joshua Masereka, warned that they are not going to tolerate such hooliganism that endanger people's lives.
Chairman, this must stop. The next time they provoke our medical people, they provoke our police, we shall not hesitate to arrest and put them in. Because they may think now that they are leaving us, it will continue being like that.
The head case management pillar for COVID-19 at Bwera General Hospital, Dr. Kabyanga Loy, says the deceased was a well-known diabetic patient and was admitted at Bwera Hospital on 10th of June 2021 before being referred to Mbarara Hospital.
Despite of the medical attention they gave him, despite of all the support, the patient was not responding as expected. They went ahead and picked a sample for COVID-19, which confirmed that actually, in addition to these other illnesses, we knew the patient was also COVID positive. We wrote a referral for him to go to Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital. This being a government hospital, also referred to a government hospital. When they reached Mbarara, they chose to go to Mayanja Memorial Hospital. Possibly the family will explain. Possibly that's where they found what they needed as per the investigation.
The team that had gone to bury the late Francisco was later escorted by police, fearing they might be roughed up by the rowdy residents.
Until when a reinforcement came, started dispersing the people, that's when the health workers were able to move off. They went and doffed, and then they waited for the police vehicle. It's what brought them here. So they came being escorted, police and UPDF.
The deputy RDC for Kasese District, Masereka Joshua, said that whoever touched the deceased should voluntarily test for COVID-19 to save others in the community.
Mr. Chairman, if there is anybody who could have touched the dead body, we encourage him to come and take a COVID test. Willingly, voluntarily let them come.
Asimwe Samuel calls on the communities in Kasese District observe the set SOPs against the pandemic.
In other news, the Men's Forum Against Domestic Violence has asked government for financial relief to help them go through this COVID-19 abrasive wave. A programs manager, Men's Forum, Robert Ndaula, says that door-to-door relief cannot work for everyone, but rather increases violence in families. Let's take a look.
In the first wave of COVID-19, government gave out food to a number of families, mainly in urban areas, to support them go through these harsh times of lockdown due to COVID-19. Men's Forum Against Domestic Violence are advocating for more relief to support families go through the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic, other than providing them food. The program's manager, Men's Forum, Robert Ndaula, however, says during the first time government was giving out food, not all families were supported.
To do more consultations, especially about this new sexual offences bill that has caused mixed reactions among Ugandans. Members of Parliament must consult more with their constituents to find out more beautiful ideas about the bill, because honestly speaking, it is causing a lot of mixed reactions. Some are good about it, but others are also worried and refuting it. So I think the President ought to bring it back to Parliament.
Ndaula also wants Parliament to revise the sexual offences bill so that all people are engaged to make it more acceptable.
Parliament must adopt the mode of delivering relief in terms of money to the mobile money accounts of all Ugandans rather than the food itself, because it had some numerous challenges. And depending on food supplies, which never reach. And sometimes, even those who receive the food relief, it is not enough. You always hear people complaining.
A senior police officer, Francis Ogweng, challenged men to care for their children in this partial lockdown.
We need to condemn those few fathers who are going ahead, defiling their own children. Imagine you produce a child, you carry this child on your laps, then later on, when the child is about 4, 5, 6 years, you turn and defile them. This is really bad.
Meanwhile, Men's Forum Against Domestic Violence think that Father's Day should not only be recognized on the calendar, but also declared a public holiday for men to bond with their families. Shaidat in Nasaku, UBC News.
The Vicar General of Kampala, Charles Kasibante, and Home Administrator Sister Nachiwu Mary Lawrence have received assorted physiotherapy equipment from Uganda's Benefit Regulatory Authority and on behalf of the vulnerable persons of Bakateyamba Nalukulongo. The equipment is meant to help the elderly and those living with disabilities exercise at their home-based Lubaga division. Let's take a look.
Bakateyamba Charity Home of Vulnerable Persons has received assorted physiotherapy equipment, courtesy of Uganda Benefits Regulatory Authority. The Director of Social Protection at Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, James Ebitu, handed over the physiotherapy equipment to Monsignor Charles Kasibante and Home Administrator, Sister Nachiwu Mary Lawrence.
Being a retirement benefits focused institution, the thought of retirement alone conjures image of old age. For retirement and old age are almost inseparable. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate Obra's constant call to all of you young people and those who still have energy to work and earn, that please save for retirement.
The Vicar General of Kampala, Monsignor Charles Kasibante, thanked Obra for assistance and said it will improve the well-being of the vulnerable.
We may need to extend this home in the future because the need is growing. The population of our country is growing and the need also is becoming evident. So the structure of this home may need to be extended. And we may call upon organizations like UBRA and others so that they can come to our help, so that our service can be extended to more members than what we have.
The Home Administrator, Sister Nachiwu, adds that they also lack a physiotherapy trainer, clearing bills and transport to their farm in Mukona, among others.
The utilities, we cannot afford to pay
Yet we have a clinic here whereby some people, when they are sick, they are on oxygen. And without electricity, we cannot go on with that service. And even the medicine itself, we keep it in the fridge.
Meanwhile, the head of corporate affairs at UBRA, Rita Nansa Siwaswa, defended NSSF approval to give partial fund to people to cater for COVID-19 treatment.
Medical bills for treating COVID patients are so high, over millions of money, and an ordinary Ugandan might not have this money readily at hand. So that is why schemes have come out to help those members that have been saving with them, to help them meet these medical bills. So this partial release is just to help members meet those exorbitant medical bills as they are suffering and being affected by COVID.
Mapira Bakatayamba Home is managed by Good Samaritan Sisters under the Catholic Church, and it depends on well-wishers for survival. Ivan Juko, Maureen Iga, UBC News.
In another development, National Drug Authority has impounded medicine worth 42 million Ugandan shillings from private clinics, drug shops and pharmacies that operate illegally. Now, some of the drug shops were discovered to be offering clinical services contrary to what is being described in their operating licenses. These are the details.
National Drug Authority has carried out an operation in West Nile districts and impounded government medicines, those donated by NGOs to the refugee communities and those smuggled from Democratic Republic of Congo. In Nebi district, a drug shop operator was found in possession of TB drugs, 10 tins of amoxicillin, a microscope and other assorted government medical supplies valued at over 35 million shillings. The culprit is being detained at Nebi Central Police Station and will be charged of unlawful possession of classified drugs and operating as a pharmacist without a license.
Some were conducting unauthorized clinical practices. When we give you license to operate at drug shops, we don't give you license to start injecting people. So we found others were doing clinical work in these drug shops. This is Mary Ozele, a 53-year-old, and her daughter, Annie Roth Lois, 19-year-old, of Ferusi Kondo village, Nebi districts, were found in possession of TB drugs, 10 tins of amoxicillin, microscope, and other assorted medicines, clearly labeled Government of Uganda, not for sale. I emphasize this. I always ask them, do you know how to read? I know. What is this? Government of Uganda, not for sale. Why are you selling it?
Arua District Chairman Alfred Okuwonzi suspects government health workers might be smuggling government drugs to private health facilities.
Our service providers in public health facilities must be, exit point for these essential health supplies. Because we have stores, we have storekeepers, we have guests in these health facilities. How do these supplies leave our health facilities?
Arua District Resident Commissioner Festus Aikobua wants NDA officials to compel the alleged culprits to speak out on how they got these drugs.
It will not only be good for us to pick the drugs and leave these people there, because these people can easily help us to tell us how they have acquired these drugs. So that next time, those who have also the mindset that they want to get free drugs from the government health units will really fear that the other time so and so they were arrested because of having government drugs.
The operation that started on 7th June was conducted in the 9 districts of West Nile, impounded 171 boxes of drugs from closed drug shops in clinics. The drugs will be destroyed if the owners do not turn up to legalize their operations with the authority.
Wow, definitely a very good catch, I must say, on government side. However, let's take a short commercial break, but before that, let's find out what happened today in history.
Today in history.
On 18th June 1972, a Trident jetliner crashed after a takeoff from Heathrow Airport in London.
However, the official cause of this accident remains unknown, but it may have happened simply because the plane was carrying too much weight. The Trident 1 jet took off with no incident, but just after its wheels retracted, it began falling from the sky. The plane split on impact, and an intense fireball from the plane's fuel supply erupted, scattering the fuselage and passengers. Only 2 of the 118 passengers and crew members on board were pulled from the wreckage alive. Both died just hours later.
Wait, Abu, tunamaliliza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with EFRIS, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Katituliku computer with EFRIS. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URS Kakasa Solutions and now I'm in charge of my business. And you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go. MTN.
COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear a mask properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
In efforts to improve quality assurance and Uganda's competitiveness as a tourist destination, Uganda Tourism Board is set to undertake a nationwide grading and classification exercise of hotel and accommodation facilities. As a member of the East African community, Uganda subscribes to the East African Grading and Classification Criteria, a system denoted by stars ranging from 1 to 5. The grading and classification exercise will be crowned by the awarding of star ratings to facilities found compliant to the EAC minimum standards. This is therefore a call to all accommodation and facility owners and managers to register and get licensed by UTB as a requirement and get ready for participation. For more information, visit www.utb.go.ug or email qualityassurance@utb.go.ug for details. Uganda Tourism Board, promoting tourism together.
Fellow Ugandans, you know that the current COVID-19 period is a trying time in our lives. However, we still have another threat that has been with us for a long time, and it is called neglected tropical diseases, also known as NTDs. NTDs include bilharzia and worms that cause swollen stomachs. Trachoma causes blindness, and elephantiasis causes the swelling of legs. These diseases are affecting millions globally, and yet they can be prevented by regular hand washing with soap and clean running water, regular washing of the face with a soap and clean running water, keeping dirty hands away from your eyes, always using pit latrines, and discouraging open defecation in your community to avoid flies that carry germs, reporting to the health facility early when feeling unwell. Remember to stay safe and protect yourself. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from Ascend Project.
Welcome back. You're still watching the UBC News Tonight, broadcasting live from Nile Avenue, also on YouTube under the name tag UBC Television Uganda. We now take you to the world of business. Now, by press time, business operators and arcade owners downtown Kampala were worried of a total lockdown. So we went down there to speak to them, and the business community say that they were ready to follow all the restrictions other than a total lockdown. Of course, this was before the president announced the measures that are taking effect today. Let's take a look.
The business community hopes the presidential address on COVID-19 won't contain anything close to a total lockdown. The entrepreneurs believe adherence to SOPs should be enforced as a stopgap measure against COVID-19 infection.
Appealing to the president not to bring back the complete lockdown as it was last year when the whole country was locked down for 4 months. This caused a lot of suffering, more especially to the business community and to the tenants.
An arcade operator, Kalunji Moses Chirumira, wants the president to tighten on SOPs but allow work to continue despite the pandemic.
This is a very serious situation, almost impossible situation, because the situation in Kampala is that people in Kampala buy food for their survival, they pay rent for their homes, and they pay rent from where they work from or operate their businesses from. At the same time, they are heavily indebted from the commercial banks.
Tunonya mmere ya lero, tunonya ne okusula tetulina balandiro di batugobaganya, tunonya mmere ya lero bannange, temugeza ne muttekako lockdown.
Kalunji adds that as arcade landlords, they will seek for their rent in case of a lockdown because as landlords, they also have debts to clear.
Landlords have got mortgages in commercial banks where we are supposed to pay loans on a monthly basis. Likewise, we expect to get this money from our tenants. And if buildings are locked, then we shall not be able to collect rent from the tenants. As a result, areas will accumulate in terms of loans.
He asked Ugandans to donate generously towards the purchase of vaccines so that all people are vaccinated against COVID-19. Jane Ramchisha, Andrew Sebira, UBC News.
And now on the international scene, 3 Chinese astronauts floated into the country's new Tiangong space station on Thursday, becoming the first people to board China's outpost in orbit after a successful launch from a military base in the Gobi Desert to start a 3-month mission. These are the details.
3 Chinese astronauts have entered the core module of the country's first space station. They went through 4 doors before finally entering the core module, where they will be living for 3 months. Now, the team were sent on board the Shenzhou 12 spaceship early Thursday and arrived at the Tianhe core module after 6.5 hours. The spacecraft was launched from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwest China's Gobi Desert. It conducted a fast automated rendezvous and docked with the front docking port of Tianhe. Well, this is the first manned mission and the third launch for a total of 11 launches for the construction of China's space station.
Furthermore, one of Africa's last surviving liberation leaders dies in hospital while in Lusaka being treated for pneumonia. Kenneth Kaunda, Zambia's founding president and one of Africa's last surviving liberation leaders, has died at the military hospital in Lusaka where he was being treated for pneumonia. He was 97. Kaunda ruled the Southern African nation from 1964 when it won independence from Britain until 1991 and is respected across the continent as one of the generation leaders who fought to free their nations from colonial rule. He was admitted to Maina Soko Hospital on Monday with pneumonia. The youngest of 8 children of the Church of Scotland minister, Kaunda was a teacher by training like his parents but was soon drawn to politics. He founded and led the principal nationalist party, the United National Independence Party, which campaigned against British colonial rule. Influenced by Gandhi's strategy of non-violence, Kaunda spent 9 months in prison and later evolved his own humanist, socialist and Pan-African philosophy. As president of Zambia, Kaunda supported the fight for other countries against repressive, racist regimes in South Africa, Namibia, Angola, Mozambique, and Rhodesia. Furthermore, polls opened at 7 a.m. local time for the vote, which has seen a widespread public apathy after a panel under Khamenei barred hundreds of candidates, including reformists and those aligned with Rouhani. Khamenei cast the ceremonial vote from Tehran, where he urged the public to take part, while the race was wide open due to President Hassan Rouhani being termed limited from running again. Authorities barred his allies and nearly every reformist from entering the race. Well, and that brings us to the end of our 10 o'clock bulletin. Thank you for joining us. But allow me to re-echo some of the president's words in his speech, and please pay attention. He said that the COVID-19 issue is not the real problem right now. The problem is how to manage the social structures to be able to avoid further spread of coronavirus. So, ladies and gentlemen, the thing is in our hands. This is all in our hands. If we can also manage to work around our social behaviors, our social mannerisms, of course, abiding by the SOPs, we can beat COVID-19. COVID-19 is not a very heavy disease like those that we have seen or even have currently right now. You know, we have a various range of diseases, but it is the social mannerisms, the social behaviors that are spiking the numbers up. So, ladies and gentlemen, abide by the SOPs. 42 days later, let's wait to see what the president will say. Otherwise, have yourselves a great weekend, and may God bless you all.